Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. As advertised, we're going to start with a look at security, the state of security here in Nigeria. And Nigeria has improved security cooperation with neighbors in making sure that the country is safe from all sorts of vulnerability, especially in light of the Boko Haram insurgency. The multinational joint task force is a case in point. Now, while taking this serious action, the Adamawa state government took in turn to engage the use of 100 vigilante members, and is providing them with incentives to complement the efforts of security agencies affected areas in the state, one of them being Gombe in Gankida, where the recent Boko Haram attack devastated that particular community. We're asking the question whether this is going to be enough in boosting the efficacy of security in Adamawa State and in Nigeria as a whole. What will this do to further add value to the security architecture in Adamawa State? Dr. Lionel Rawlins, as always, is our go-to guide on security matters. He is the Assistant Vice President, Security and Safety of the American University of Nigeria here in Yola. Doctor, it's good to see you. Love the imprint, love what you're wearing. How was the weekend?
It was good. I should say Anakanya.
What's that?
I don't know that language.
Anakanya.
Oh, okay. What am I supposed to say? Oh, chamba?
Yeah.
Really? It sounds a lot different. That's something entirely different.
No, you just didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
because I have a friend who is in the studio right now, in the control room, who is chamba, and he doesn't sound, you know,
the way he will say.
I'm the real chamber man.
Oh, okay. Noted. Duly noted. Good to see you, Doc.
Good to see you.
First, I have to ask you about the coronavirus outbreak before we get into the details of this. We saw how the world is taken aback by this. You know, how everything is being shut down, how it is having a socio-political, socio-economic impact and implications and consequences to this. Is there a security angle to this particular outbreak or pandemic, as we call it? Is there a security angle to this devastation that is rocking the world right now?
Of course. Anytime people become vulnerable, anytime countries become vulnerable, whether it's from a disease, which doesn't really happen too often, but warfare, a collapse in the economy, internal strife, when these things happen, then it opens up the door for the bad people to take advantage of the vulnerability of the country and the people. And this opens up lots of doors, so a lot of crimes to be committed, and for the insurgency to expand, and they're not afraid of the coronavirus as most people are. Bad guys not afraid of anything because they're bad guys, and they think they're invincible, and they don't think that it's going to bother them, and they don't care whether it bothers them or not. But it's a good question. Anytime countries are in strife, in turmoil, or people are in turmoil, it opens up the doors for bad things to happen, criminal-wise.
Right, sure. And a lot of people really, like you said, take advantage of it, you know, as a result of the vulnerability and the panic, so to say, in society today.
But I believe this is my personal opinion, in about 30 days, this will be a thing of the past.
Right.
We all will recover. And I don't, people are saying 6 months, 3 months. I don't believe so. We are much too smart and too educated. We are living better, longer, stronger. We have all of the technology to create drugs, to create vaccines, to do all these things that can make us, you know, overcome any kind of disease that is thrown our way. And as a matter of fact, it's only the elderly who are dying. And so that tells us if you are under a certain age, don't worry, you'll survive it.
All right. I mean, you're usually right about these things, and I hope this is one of those.
Well, I hope so too, and I will in 30 days.
Yeah.
Ask me about it.
Okay. I hope even less than that would be much more cheerful news. Right, back to our focus, which is, of course, obviously the security situation here in Adamawa, the Fintra administration decided to come up with Operation Farata as its own state-sponsored security initiative, so to say, where it is harnessing the interagency collaboration of the Nigerian police, the military, the NSCDC, local hunters, vigilantes in an effort to boost security here in Adamawa State. What do you make of that vis-a-vis its reliance right now, so to say, in using the much more traditional method of securing communities?
Well, for one, it shows that he's listening to your program, because we've been saying here for about, since he got in power, even before, that they need to augment, to bring in these vigilantes and hunters to support the police and the other security forces that are here, which would allow them to do their jobs and let the vigilantes and hunters stay in the different nicks and crannies, the holes, the little streets, the roads, the neighborhoods, and protect the people. And in the last couple of months, there has been an increase, a spike in incidents. One of my workers she got robbed twice in 1 week. That's really bad luck, and she lost a lot of stuff. And one of it happened in the day when there were people watching, and all they could say to her after was, "You shouldn't be walking with a bag." And men are standing there watching it happen. Another time
Sheila activity?
Yeah, Sheila activity. So, you know, our problem is not Boko Haram so much as it is Sheila. Sheila is our Boko Haram in this area. Boko Haram our problem is up north, up there where they're doing their stuff. And maybe, you know, eventually it may come here. If we don't do something about it there, it may come here. But until then, our problem is Sheila boys and other robbers and armed robbery, people going into your house, taking ladders with you in an organized manner, and they go in large groups of 15 and 20, and you and your wife and children are in there sleeping, you cannot defend yourself. That is organized criminal activity. That is just as traumatizing as if Boko Haram came through and shot up the place. So the governor is right to do it, but when in the opening monologue he said 100. Is it 100 or 1,000?
100 for now.
What is 100 going to do? If he's going to do
it, a drop in the ocean?
It's a drop in the ocean. The place, he needs to hire more people, and I know the problem is money, because he doesn't have the money,
the resources to.
But I am sure that if the vigilantes and hunters met with him and he told them, look, I can only pay you this amount, help me secure the state and keep it safe, and when things get better, I will remember you and I will take care of you. If he were to do that, he will have thousands of those guys.
But doctor, if you remember I think some years back when the vigilante also, you know, collaborated with the military in taking the fight, you know, to the insurgency and all of that, then they also called for them to be absorbed and also be paid some incentive. That didn't come, and they decided not to further, you know, lend their services to the. Don't you think that is, since already that is their intention, wanting some incentive before they render their service, it's going to be so a difficult task for the government right about now to get them to work.
Not really. Remember, when they first started, they were doing it free.
Yeah.
They joined willingly, took the fight with the military towards or against Boko Haram. They weren't paid, they weren't given anything. It's like a year or so after that people said, hey, you need to give these people something, you know, create a position, create something, call it what you want to call it, do what you want to do, but give them just a little something. And they refused. And it's because they refused why they stopped. But for like a whole year, they were fighting on their own without one kobo. And they had to reload their own bullets, and they had to bring their own meals, they had to get their own weapons. So I am saying, if the governor was really and truly went out and asked them to help, they're from the state, they will help. And if he promised that he would take care of them along the way, when things get better, I am sure these
They'll
are
be willing
patriots,
to that.
and these are simple people. They don't want. They're not looking for a BMW or 10-bedroom
Yeah.
house. They just want to be able to sustain their families.
Sure.
So why not give them just a little incentive?
All right, that's just one aspect of it. Another aspect is now that, for instance, the government has taken up 100 of them, you know, to render their service to the state and order. What else should they be, you know, given a side incentive to help them, you know, work very efficiently and effectively in curbing, you know, the insecurity right about now?
Well, you have to at least make them a promise that we will continue to use you, that there is a job for you. Somewhere along the way, waiting.
So job security, for instance?
Job security
Yeah.
is one, but also give them that little bit of respect. Everybody wants some respect.
Yeah, I was looking at the issue of training them, providing them with all the necessary gadgets and equipment to work with, and then also ensuring that, you know, there's no feud between them and what the police is doing or what the military is doing and all of that.
Well, they need to be trained, but the biggest training is not tactics, because the military knows that. Then the military is going to support them, but then they need to know a little bit of tactics, a little bit of strategies, because the hunters and vigilantes, they have their own tactics and their own little tricks that they use. What you need or they need to learn to do is how to make sure you don't go above and beyond the law. That is the most fearful part of it, where they will be patrolling Karawa, they grab two suspected Sheila boys and then beat them to death, or beat them so severely that they end up in the hospital. And this is what a lot of people are very afraid of, and this is what I know law enforcement is afraid of. And the other part of it is, what do you do with the man with the gun after the war is won? What would we do if we mobilize them now into a force, and they fight and they carry on for about 5 years? When things get better, what do you do with them?
That has been a question that, you know,
surely,
over the years not being answered.
And for many people is, how can we better manage this relationship or synergy between the state-sponsored security outfit or the regular security outfit, which is the Nigerian Police, the NSCDC, the military, and all of that, and then the augmented security initiative, which is of course the vigilantes and the hunters. Do you think there's much more that we can explore in terms of collaboration and operations?
Yes. When other countries do it, the best practices that I have seen is they have somebody, an intermediary between the hunters or the vigilantes and the law enforcement or the security forces. There's an intermediary, somebody who is respected, somebody who people look up to, somebody who the hunters trust, and let him do the work, bridge that gap between them and the law enforcement. You don't let politicians do it, because then they will start to use it for their own. You become political. You cannot let the police or the military, civil defense do it, because at some point they will all leave. Because remember, the police and those guys don't stay here forever. They spend a year and then they leave. So when a relationship is developed between the vigilantes and the police, before you know it, when it's going well, the police is gone, or the brigade commander is gone. So most places they have an intermediary, a trusted man in the community, from the community, who people look up to, who the hunters trust, and let him always be the one to bridge the gap between them and the armed forces, because that is one of the best ways you can fix this and develop trust at the same time.
And for some people, I think we should legislate something that formalizes this arrangement, so that it would not be a sort of an improvised setup that can be used at will by the powers that be, which sometimes could be political. We do know how our politicians in power used to, flex their muscle using state apparatus. Do you think we should legalize the use of augmented, forces like the hunters and the vigilantes that will make it sort of like a formal arrangement?
Well, if you do that, and 5 years from now, Nigeria is good. There is no problems. We are living like we're supposed to live, decent, non-threatening, non-violent. You already legislated something for these people. What would you do with them?
I mean,
you
demobilize them? Amended. I mean, we have disbanded a lot of establishment before, and we can do it again. I'm saying, does this situation warrant for something that is a bit formal, something that can be worked on? Because we're using public expenditure to finance their activities. Isn't it proper to set boundaries and say, okay?
In a way you can, but you must have a way forward to how are you going to demobilize them? Because like I said, in 5 years, if things turn out well, what are you going to do with them? You can't just dump them out in the street and say, you know what, we don't need your services anymore, we are living good, we're doing this. You must have a proper way of demobilizing these people, and what proper way than to bring them in society, either send them to school, give them a skill or trade. Most of them may not want it because they like being hunters and vigilantes, but you have to give them something, to do, something that is going to keep them busy. And you will not want to have a little mini militias running around. That's what happened in Libya. And that is one of the problems they're having today with all these different militias of their own. These were guys who had banded themselves together in the fight against, what's his name in Libya? Gaddafi. Right. They put themselves together and they fought against him. When he was killed and Libya fell, every one of them felt that they should have been the ones who taken over the country, and now you have 20 different militia groups killing everyone. So we should look into this and make sure that we don't get so deep.
Right, we're not arming them. They already have their local tools which they use. If anything, the government is making them much more organized with the way they move and how they operate. Do you think that there's any danger in relation to that? Because the government is not putting guns into automatic weapons into their hands. No, they're using
the damn guns and the little things in the packet.
The charms. Right, you can see that. Right.
I don't know if it's charms because I never seen one of those bags. But you probably saw what's in the bag, but I've never seen it. But rather than legislating it, you can deputize them. You can deputize them. Yes, all you can do is make them a deputy and say, just read a pledge that we deputize you under the Constitution of Nigeria to make you a police constable or for until such period that it's time to disband you. What's to that effect? In the old days in the United States of cowboys, when they were tracking people, they used to have these groups they called posse.
Yeah, right.
A posse.
Right.
And they used to take these posse out and they would go to look for the bad guys. And eventually the posses became violent and they would start killing people. So they had to bring them back in and deputize them. So they were like a sheriff. That's where the word deputy sheriff came from, the deputy sheriff. So the sheriff deputized them to go under the coverage of the law to go and hunt for bad people.
Operate legally.
Legally, right. And it wasn't no legislature. Legislatures, you start, its laws come out of the assembly, it becomes too complicated.
I mean, you have, why I said that is because of what is happening in the southwestern part of the country with Amotekun, for instance, because they are, what you have here, the vigilantes, the hunters, people who are already in the business of security and all of that, and then formalize it so that they operate within law, so that their interactions with the citizenry would be one that is
respected,
right, isn't it?
And wanted.
Right, exactly.
Yes, you can do that right here. And I've been advocating for that for a long time. And I think 100 of them is like you said, a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, I know that
he's adding to it
yeah.
because I think he has given a couple of hundreds before now, the jobs of securing some part of
they're not going to stop at 100.
Right.
What need to be done is they need to hire these people en masse in large numbers. And then before you get the numbers, you go around the areas and find out. You need to sit down with people who knows this. Let us find out where the high crime areas are, where the most vulnerable areas are, so we can protect those people first. And then the next set of people who is the second in line and the third in line. How many people are living in that area? For example, if you're living in Shagari, which has become a very dangerous place to live, just find how many people live there, how many streets, how many roads. Just find out how many, what's the population of that place. Look at the vulnerable areas, where the people are getting kidnapped and robbed. And that is how you start fixing it so that these guys are patrolling during the day and more at nights. And it can be done effectively and properly. And if it's done properly, you'll see a reduction in all of this crime that is taking place throughout Yola, Jamaica, and beyond.
All right.
They need also to enhance, the issue of intelligence gathering and how they relate with even the community to be able to get all of this information to help them, discharge their duties more effectively?
Very much so. And those guys are going to be your intelligence gatherers. A friend of mine got robbed. His house got broken into and robbed, and he didn't know who it was. I called a hunter, and I told him, "Can you find out who did this?" Within 4 hours, he told me. And before they started selling all of the guys' stuff, they were brought back. Just because the hunter was from the neighborhood
and he heard, who can do that.
And he heard and knew these people, and he knew exactly who to look for, because he knew the mode of operation, the modus operandi, as we say, and he knew from what was told, he knew exactly who to go to.
Okay.
So these are the things that can be done easily if they can tell me. And I can get some guys to find out. Can you imagine if you had it done professionally?
All right,
Dr. Lionel.
Biggest asset as far as security conversations are concerned on the show, and good to see you. Lovely shoes.
Yours too. Those are what you call Louis Vuittons. You can get robbed. Don't wear those things in the
You had to say it. You had to
Anyways.
Take them off. Don't go into the KK with those shoes.
Oh no, there's provision for transport. So thank you very much.
Wear your canvas.
Thank you, Doctor, for your time.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. All right, we will listen to Dr. Lionel Rawlins, Assistant Vice President, Security and Safety of the American University of Nigeria, talking about how we need to, improve on security in Adamawa State. For instance, the 100 vigilantes that were also absorbed by the government to encourage and, of course, curb the insecurity within the state. So we'll keep an eye on that development, and then who can also rely on us for updates. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll still have more for you on Safiya Breakfast Show.